5.
Yeah.
The only way they can tell is under the microscope, and it's what I have is hairy cell leukemia, which is a good one to get if you have to get a leukemia. But I would be attacked somewhere on my body, on my skin. And I didn't realize this till I got a new oncologist. He said, well, he says he only had 5 patients with the same thing that I have. Every one of them have a skin problem. Most of the time it would attack this leg. But I get this cured here, and then it would come out over here. Now it's coming out of the back of my neck right now. Somewhere it has to come out of my body because it's a blood disorder, and it's something I've got to always put up with. So anyway, I've gone through oil pulling. Have you ever heard of oil pulling? I've done my own colonics. I've done liver cleanses, kidney cleanses, liver cleanses, pesticide cleanses, cold showers. I've done that but my oncologist said, oh, you don't have anything to worry about. You won't. Well, my white count was 1.2 when they discovered this, but I kept having highs and lows, and until I started doing all these other things, it never got any better. Even 10 years after I had chemo 4 times, my counts never did ever get any better. And I had Robert Courtney as a pharmacist, and they got him locked up in Rochester, New York. We knew who he was because we made a deal with him. They paid the $5,000 for the chemo each time, but they wouldn't pay for the pump that I got from him. And he says, if you pay my cost, then we'll forget about the bill. So that's what we did. So
You're a survivor.
I'm a survivor, yeah. But
You
but all-
survived everything.
But all these things I have learned on my own. And I have found 2 medical doctors who are endorsing this now, but there aren't many because you can't patent this because it's a mineral, and they make money on antibiotics, and they can't make any money on this. So, but it's fascinating to buck them, and they have a name for me that don't believe everything they say.
I remember there was a pathologist who came to KU once, a guy named William Ober, O-B-E-R. He was an old school pathologist, and he wrote books about literature in Madison, which were just wonderful. And one thing that it came up about, in literature, anecdotes are fine, but in medicine, anecdotes are just someone's story. You know, and you know, so if you say something's anecdotal, that's really not very. That's almost a put down. And Ober said the plural of anecdote is fact.
Oh. Well, this, you know, I can read hundreds and hundreds of testimonials of people that have used this, but their doctors still say there's no proof. There is no proof that this even helps you because there's no place in the human body for metals. But our bodies have all kinds of metals that they get. It comes out of the soil.
Right.
And I had no idea, and I didn't realize at the time when we went through the polio scare when I was in the 3rd and 4th grade back in the 30s, that polio was a virus. All the childhood diseases are viruses. This is supposed to cure every virus, every bacterial problem, every fungus problem. And they say there's absolutely no proof. So anyway, I do know that before I started drinking a little bit of this in the morning, a little bit in the night, I would be attacked somewhere. Mostly, and I couldn't figure out what was, and I'd ask my oncologist, what is it? Something happens to the palms of my hands. They get bright red and I can't scratch them. They itch something terrible. Yeah. And so my new oncologist, I told him, I said, when I get attacked like that, I just drink from 2 to 4 ounces of colloidal silver, and 5 minutes later, the problem's taken care of. That somehow it's, would correct it. So,
how did you find out about this?
Well, just by going on there and reading, and I've, another thing, I went to K-State in 47, and I took dairy manufacturing. So I knew, I have never milked a cow in my life, and I used to process 1 million pounds of milk a day. But that's when I found out about colostrum, and so my immune system was not getting better, and so I remembered from studying, the new milk from the mother cow that gave to the calf, that colostrum, was put out the first 10 days. And so I got to thinking, well, if that was good for a newborn calf or a new baby that comes from every mother, every mammal, why wouldn't that be good for an older person when their immune system goes bad? So I got on the internet, and they've been using this for years. And so we told a lot of doctors, and Ada has Meniere's, where it's an inner ear thing that I have to lead her around by both hands. And once she started, I was taking it for 2 or 3 years before she did, and I said, once you start taking colostrum, and finally she used up everything she got from the ear doctor, and nothing would work. She only had one spell since she'd been taking that, and that's when we came back from high elevation, high temperature from the west. She had one spell, and that's the only spell, and she takes that every day. So, but that's called the transfer factor.
Okay.
That's what makes your immune system from one generation to the next through the transfer factor in the newborn baby's milk from the mother. And if you talk to farmers, they keep colostrum on hand all the time and feed to their cow. If they get older, they start giving them colostrum. And so
we're mammals too, right?
Well, yeah. Anyway, this comes from milk in New Zealand, cows in New Zealand, because that's the best environment in the world. And so they have found out that the colostrum from cows is far more powerful on the transfer factor than from humans. And so, and I verified that on the internet, and they had all kinds of testimonials that that's the thing to do. So we recommend that to all kinds of people now. Anything. Well, we've got Michael taking it now. He's been having some ear problems.
Yeah.
So.
Do you just get this anywhere, and like a health foods?
You can order it. You can get it at the Vitamin Shop, or you can order it on the internet.
Okay.
Or you can get it. You can order it if you someone that orders things from Amazon. You can get it through Amazon cheaper than you get it from the manufacturer. And they must do this from their warehouses. Amazon must have warehouses all over the United States or the world, I suppose, and that's how they do that. They can come up with a cheaper price, including shipping.
Right. Huh, never heard of it.
But you heard of colostrum for calves?
No.
Well, that's how I remember that from studying that at K-State. And of course, when I was in the dairy, we did E. coli tests and bacteria tests on every product, 125 products, that we check every day. So I know I've been in the lab, and I knew, and I did all the cultures for the cheese. So that's how I make my own probiotics, which is, similar to what you do with the cultures in cheese. It's like bread, with the yeast. It goes from you keep running it. Well, the probiotics that I have they are what they call grains. This is the more you feed these are probably hundreds of years old. These are grains, and this is far better probiotics than any of the capsules that you buy in the health food store. Where I feed it, I feed that every third day. Brown sugar and blackstrap molasses, and this is they're in here working.
Amazing.
Those grains in there, and you feed them, and the more you feed it, the more they will multiply. And if you only thing about cultures, every degree that you incubate it, you will get a different end product. And when I was already making cheese, when penicillin came out, the farmer would, if their cows had mastitis, they'd give it a shot. And they thought, well, if we give them 2 or 3 shots, it'd be that much better. But then we couldn't make cheese for a couple of weeks because that would get in there, it would stop the organisms from the ability to make cheese. So when that happened, this is clear back, this was 50 some years ago. When we had a good batch, a good culture, I would bring it home and put it in my mother's deep freeze. And then when if we run into trouble again, then I would bring that back and kick it in the 2nd or 3rd generation. It starts out with a quart, then goes to a 10-gallon stainless steel milk can, and then would go to a 200 gallons vat, and then would go from there in. There's like, to make a 2,000 gallon vat, you'd have to have, I don't know, like 40 gallons of that starter that would go in there. So it just kept stepping up each process. So it was like 3 generations before it was kicked in to make the cheese. So I knew all about stuff like that.
How long were you, it was the All-Star Dairy?
Yeah,
How long were you there?
I was there 32 and a half years. And during 1945, during World War II. And so at that time we were making cheddar cheese, and then